I am doing tutorials for each of these little bookish painting ornaments, and I have 3 separate tutorials for the little gingerbread library, this little reading scene, and then the mushroom. And they're all really beginner friendly, so if you want to hang out and paint some to give some as gifts or do with some of your book friends, definitely check them out. And I'll be doing this one for this video, so if you want to hang out and paint, definitely stay tuned. And if you want these other ones, you can go check out my other videos. Okay, so for this ornament here, we are gonna need some wood rounds. You can get these at craft stores, Walmart. I would get mine on Amazon because I bulk buy, and then I just drill the hole myself, but a lot of them will come with drills already, holes already in them. Then I have this just to mix some colors on, like a paper plate. My camera is being crazy. Paintbrushes, so I have a big one, a medium, and then a couple small runs, really tiny ones. And then I do use a pencil so I can sketch out the tiny book on this one. So if you want to have a pencil to do that, you can. It's just a little easier to fill in. Ribbon, and then a cup of water. And then for the paint, I have black and white, cream and brown. You don't really necessarily have to have cream. You can easily mix like white with some of the brown, but I just had one brown for the fence. And then I do have a dark green and a light green. You can use any shade you want, or you can mix one color of green with some black or white, and then red for the blanket, which you can do that any color you want as well. Totally forgot to mention in the other video, I was like out of breath too. I do use 2 shades of blue for the sky. You can just do 1 shade mixed with black white, but I use a light sky blue and then this darker blue. So to start off, I have a damp large brush, and you don't want to have too much water, especially when you're working with wood, because if there's too much water, it'll like kind of blow out in a way. And I'm just gonna paint the back of the round with this lighter blue. And if you are just using 1 color of blue, make sure it's probably a little bit darker than this, which is why I add the other blue, because once you start adding the snowflakes, all of the little dots, they're not really going to show up against white. There's not enough contrast between the 2 colors, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, while that's still a little bit wet, I'm actually going to take this dark blue and just tap it in just to darken it up and give it some texture, just so those snowflakes will really pop. You can even get some of this back on it, or even white, and kind of do it a little bit heavier in some spots, and it'll kind of look like clouds. But if you look at this, the sky you're only really going to see right here, so it doesn't have to be perfect in this middle part. Okay, now for the white, it's just going to kind of go in this bottom area. If you want to do 2 coats of the white, you definitely can let it dry a little bit in between. Acrylic dries pretty quick on wood, or just in general. That way it's pretty dark and bright. Dark and bright, I don't think that's accurate, but just because you can kind of see some of the blue behind it. But and then if you want to take some of that lighter blue, you can kind of mix it in a couple spots to kind of give the snow some shadow if you want. But most of the snow is going to be covered up, so it's not a huge deal. Okay, so we are going to start the trees, and the way I do trees is I have my light green and my dark green. I'm going to take that or not even light, just a middle green. And I don't really paint super realistic trees. I'm trying not to shadow where my light is. I'm going to just kind of draw a line like this, and then you're just going to kind of do these little branch swoosh movements. Just making sure you're going out wider towards the bottom. But it doesn't have to be perfect, or it doesn't have to be even. I feel like if it's even, it kind of doesn't look, I mean, I know this doesn't look real, but it kind of doesn't make it look as real. It's okay if there's some sky behind it. We're gonna add the dark green over the top too, so my white is still a little wet, but then at the bottom you kind of round it out with those little strokes. Kind of like this. And you can use any shade of greens. Like I think on this ornament, I kind of have more olive green, but this one I kind of went with this brighter green. Just kind of like this. And then we're gonna do a tall one and a short one. So you'll have a tall one right here, and then a short one right there. And we're gonna do the base for all of them with this same green. Okay, so there's the 3 shapes, and it's okay if this one's touching it. It's kind of sitting in front, just like that. And I'm now gonna take my darker green, and adding the shadows in the tree kind of helps it not look as flat. And if it's not as dark, let me see how dark this is. I might need to add some black. Yeah, let me grab some black. Okay, so I've got some black, and I'm gonna just mix some here on this little, what color? Oh, on this envelope. And black goes a long way. You really only need like one little drop. Okay, let's see how that looks. And I'm just gonna kind of go and randomly put some black strokes on it like this. They don't have to be perfect. You definitely don't want them even on both sides. You want to do some in the middle, kind of doing like a rounded, because you know the tree isn't just leaves on both sides, just to kind of help give that fuller tree shape. And I sometimes connect some of them, that way it looks a little more, not as even. Just kind of like that. It's gonna be giving a very much camouflage army look, and that means you're doing it right. And if you like to paint trees other ways, or have seen other tutorials, there's a lot of really amazing tutorials for painted winter trees. You can totally do that too. I just like stuff really easy. Okay, so now I'm gonna take some of that lighter green shade and mix it with some white. So I know, honestly, I feel like it would probably make more sense to do a darker green first and then start going from medium green to light green towards the front. That's probably the right way to do it. So you could always do it that way. It might even turn out a little better, but I just do the medium, dark, light to white. I don't know why. So I don't do a lot of the light green. I just kind of go and add it a little bit just to kind of mimic like wherever our light source is, whether it's the sun or the moon. It's kind of hitting certain spots. That might need to be a little lighter. That kind of matched the other green. All right, let's see. God, that is like a very pastel green. Ooh. Yeah, so I'm just very subtly adding that. Just adding tiny highlights. My tree is definitely not dry, so it will kind of mix a little. So it would probably be best if you let it dry a little before you start mixing all the colors, but I'm just kind of going in with a light touch. Kind of like that, and then I'm gonna just let that sit while I do these 2 trees. So we are going to backtrack here just a second. Also, do you see how this is giving army print? Yeah, it's all right. I need some more snow room right here to do the blanket. I recorded one already and I did the same thing. So I'm actually gonna paint. It's okay if you paint over this. See, mine's definitely not dry. It's kind of mixing that green. But I'm gonna paint that over just to give me some more snow room, and then I'll show you we can fix the bottom of those trees so easily. It's not gonna mess anything up. Just make sure you're not making a lime green in the snow like I am. I'm gonna let this dry so that way I can paint over this green, and then we'll fix the bottom of the trees and add the snow on top. Okay, so I covered up the green and the snow. I'll let that dry because I was just mixing all the colors. And then just to fix the bottom of the tree, you could leave it like this. It kind of looks like there's like a snow hill in front, but I'm gonna just kind of blend it all back. You just kind of get some green and just, nope, my paint is definitely not dry. There is mixing white. You just kind of feather it out, kind of how you were earlier. Definitely let it dry though, because it's gonna look like mine. Just at the bottom, kind of do a little, just to, almost to get rid of like the harsh white line, so they're just kind of sitting on top of the snow again. But you can even take some of the dark. That is just a mess right here. But okay, so for the white, while that kind of dries down a bit, there's kind of two ways you can do it. I weirdly do it different on all of mine. So you can kind of do it, let me focus that, like this. It's very feathered out snow, smaller strokes. Or like this one that has much chunkier snow in it. I just like this one. I don't know why. And then this one, it has like the chunky snow, but it's not as much. So there's so many ways you could do it. I'm probably gonna do it this way. I'll probably do it this way for this video, and that is what we're about to do. So I'm gonna use one of my smaller brushes. And this is all pretty dry, so we'll start on this. All right, I'm gonna be using this brush right here for the white, and it's still a little wet. I'm just not patient right now. So I'm gonna get some white, and we're just gonna kind of set this in some spots to kind of mimic like there's snow like sitting on the tree leaves. I'm trying not to make these even. You kind of want them randomly sized, randomly placed. This is really gonna kind of help get the tree size, if that makes sense. Like the, not the size, like the shape of the tree. I'll kind of zoom in here in a second. Just kind of like this. Making sure we're doing some, you know, kind of in the middle. My bottom of the tree is still definitely wet from just a second ago. Kind of like that. Just where, if snow was falling, where it would kind of hit the tree. Okay. So you can kind of see how those look. It's almost just like little back and forth motions, and I'm going to do it to this tree and this one, and then we will add the smaller little strokes. Just the snow on the trees, and then I'm actually going to start using this really little brush right here, and I got it a little wet, and I did put some water right here. You don't want too much water when you're doing this. See like how it just came out a lot. It's just to kind of get your white to move a little better. So what we're going to be doing these little strokes right here. You don't have to do it. I do think it kind of just adds to the tree. And you're not pressing hard. You're kind of just making these little sweeping motions and hoping that it catches on the wood. I think I said it in my other videos. They're like closed little eyelashes. You kind of just randomly do them. Just making sure you're still going with that angle of the tree. Just in some random spots. And if you put one or you mess up, you decide you don't like it, you can just paint back over it with the green, because it'll be fine without it. Kind of do it on the outsides of the tree to give it some feathered look. So it's not a lot. Let me put some right here. Just kind of like that. You can kind of see the difference in the two, which you can easily leave it like this too. I just kind of like to add those little strokes, so if you wanted to do that. There is all just the little strokes. So the trees are done. You could definitely add little ornaments or garlands on one of them or all of them. That would be kind of cute, but I'm not gonna do that. So now we are about to start, I guess, the little blanket with the book. That's what we're gonna do next. So we're gonna need our red and then our browns. So for the blanket, I don't know why this paint says it's red. I mean, it says it's dark red, which is why I had bought it a while back, but it's like cherry freaking red. That's so bright. Now you don't want to make sure that your paintbrush is wet because it'll definitely start moving around. We're actually going to do almost like a diamond shape, so if you want to turn it sideways, it is a little bit easier. And so we're going to kind of do, you could draw with a pencil first if you want. If your snow is dry, the pencil, you can actually erase it too. We're going to kind of do this little diamond outline just to kind of get the shape. It doesn't have to be super straight like the sides, because blankets, if you're thinking of a blanket laying on the ground, it's never like laying completely straight. Like you kind of have some little curls and dips. Just kind of about that. You could make these sides a little bit longer if you want. Just like that, and then I'm gonna just color that in. Okay, so now that I colored that in, and you can definitely see how this one's much darker, it's because I did take some black, and that's why I have this water sitting here too. I kind of got some black on my brush, and I'm gonna kind of add it to the edge just a little bit. If the red is moving around too much, you can let it dry a bit because it'll kind of pull it off. I'm just gonna it kind of makes it like a maroony color. If you need to add red back too, you can. Just kind of, I like to add the shadows around the edges. And then fade it into on like one side, so coming in on the right. See how it's pulling off? It's like adding those like highlights almost. That's definitely because that paint is just way too wet. It's just moving it around. So if it's doing that, definitely let it dry and then you can start going over it. Fading this black in a little. Trying to keep that middle part a little bit brighter, just so we don't have this looking flat like how the trees were. And I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'll probably go over right here just so I can kind of cover the white strip up. Okay, so I let that dry, and I'm gonna show you it up close. It does not have to look perfect up close or perfectly blended, because like, look at our trees. Like, they're very cartoonish. This whole thing's kind of cartoonish, so nothing has to look realistic. It's one of the reasons. Well, first, I can't paint realistically, but painting this way is always fun because there's like, you don't have to, nothing has to be perfect. Everything can kind of be this big and messy, and it all still will look good in the end. So now we're gonna do the book, but make sure you want this to be completely dry. That way we don't do any smudging, because I use a pencil with the book and we'll end up kind of tracing it out right here. And if it's wet, it'll pull it off. And if it pulls it off anyway, it's okay because we'll be painting over it, but it's a lot better if this is like a really dry surface. While that red is drying, I'm actually going to trace out on this kind of what the book shape this is going to look like. I'm going to kind of trace it bigger. That way you can kind of get an idea of what it's supposed to look like. So when you scale it down, I think it makes it easier if you see the shape. So with a book lying flat at an angle, this would be like our middle line. And you're almost going to kind of draw like a flag. So it'll be like up, down, and you do the same thing on the bottom, up, down, and then connect it. The reverse flag on the other side, connect it. And since this will be so small, honestly, everything doesn't really matter. This will pretty much be a like angled rectangle, like this shape right here. And then once we start adding the brown, it'll help it all come to life. But then we're also gonna almost paint. If I was drawing this, it would be much different, but since it's so small, we're gonna paint. So this will be white or cream, and then this will be cream. Okay, and then once we're done with that, we'll add all the little shadows with the brown, but then we'll get our black and paint just like a line on these two sides, and that will be our cover. And then you could even add like a little half circle right there. So that's what it would look like scaled down, but more kind of like this angle. So if that kind of helps a little when you so you can kind of get an idea of what you're going to be drawing on a smaller scale. This is dry enough. I just kind of added that pencil mark just to see. So I'm going to start with that middle line like I showed you, going down. And then I'm going to do the little flag going one way and then the flag going the other way. And you can make this as big as you want. I'm just kind of doing like a smaller book. It's kind of like hidden. So let me see if I can get an angle. Okay, there's like a good angle. There's what it looks like right there. It's like laying open. So that's really the only shape you need to do. Everything else will paint because these other parts, we don't need to draw that small. So I'm gonna get my cream color and we're gonna paint that shape. Okay, I am using a really tiny brush for this. And let me see if I can bring this closer so I can kind of show y'all up close painting. So we're just I'm gonna kind of outline this. It might mix the pencil into it, but that's okay. We are gonna paint over it probably twice. That side, okay, I'm gonna lay it down. That was kind of hard to do holding. And I'm gonna do this side. Okay, I'm gonna paint that in. So yeah, this will probably need 2 coats just to really make that look a lot brighter. But here's kind of the shape that we're needing. If it looks like that, you could, or if it kind of has that rectangle look, that is exactly what we need. And I'm gonna do 2 coats on that. So once that dries down a bit, I'm gonna add the next coat. I'm actually going to make it a little bit thicker right here on the bottom and on this side because we're gonna paint brown on top of it and the brown needs to show up. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do. So down here across the bottom, I'm gonna make that just a tiny bit thicker. So it shows like there's pages, like it's a thicker book. A little bit thicker. And then also on this one side to the right, just a little bit thicker. So it's still the same shape, but now you can kind of see how it's not just like a 1-page open book, like that. So with the brown now, I'm gonna get just a little bit on the tip of my paintbrush. You don't want too much, so when you press down, you don't have a huge blob. We are gonna trace that middle line right here. I gotta focus that middle line with a darker brown. Let me find the camera. And I am just going to, if you want to dilute your brown with water and do like a really transparent brown, so it's not as a harsh line, you totally can. So we're gonna do that middle line and then I'm gonna get my brush wet just a little bit, dip it in the brown, and we're gonna kind of do light strokes right here at the bottom where we extended that cream color to kind of add a shadow of these pages. Need that a little browner. Just like that. And then I'm going to add some brown, same little strokes to this side. So now it looks like that book has a shadow where the pages are. I'm gonna take some of that brown off in the middle. So now, do you see, I hope you can kind of see, so it's like an open book, so there's our middle spine, some of the pages shadow here and here. Using this same really tiny brush, we are gonna get black, that way it shows up just with a little bit, and we are gonna trace the bottom and the right side, like go under it in a line, that way we can have our cover. So I'm gonna just do a really thin line. You could start thin and go thicker, but usually book covers aren't that thick, like from the pages. So I'm gonna just do a small line right here, just like that. And then I'm gonna do it on the right side under this stack of pages right here, just like that. So that's pretty much your book. If you want, you can, where that little spine is, you can add a little hump, but it's not a big deal because it's so tiny. All right, but there's your book. That was the hardest part. And let's see where we at. Oh, now we're gonna add the fence, and then we'll add all of the snowflakes, and we will be done. For the fence, we're gonna be using this dark brown again, and I'm using like a medium brush, medium to thin. We're gonna be adding these little posts. I did about 5 on this, but you could do a lot. This one has a lot more. Skinny, doesn't matter. And we're gonna start from the right to the left, and we're gonna they're gonna be getting shorter as they come across that way. So see how this one's the tallest, and it's just kind of at an angle going short. So we're gonna start on this side, probably about right here. And you'll probably have to do 2 coats of this brown, unless yours is really dark, but mine is not. That way you can get the shape, and then the second coat you can kind of fix it. At the top, I do have a little point to mine, but I've seen ones with just the rectangle, and I think it's cute too. On the little gingerbread larger painting I did just a rectangle, and I kind of liked it a little better. But so do you see how this post is a little bit shorter? We're just kind of gonna get shorter as we go down. This one's gonna be even shorter. It's okay if it goes up into the blanket. We're gonna add a little bit of shadow to these. And then a little bit shorter. And then, well, I'll probably do one more right there. And then I'm gonna go over them one more time just so they'll be extra dark. Okay, so it just kind of got shorter, and I am going to get we're gonna do these little ones across here in just a second. I feel like I'm going out of order, but I'm gonna get a little black on my skinny brush right here, or my little really thin one, and I'm gonna add a tiny black line just on the left side, just to add a little bit of shadow. This helps these not look as flat, like they're sitting flat. Kind of helps them stand up against that middle ground and the trees. It kind of just brings them forward a little for the eye. Just doing it to all of them. I'll do this one, I forgot, yeah. Just like that. It just kind of pulls them forward and sharpens them just a little. So now we're just gonna do the little wood pieces going across. So I'm going back into my brown, and I am just gonna do some little brown stripes, I guess, going across the two, kind of trying to follow the angle they're at. These ones are angled up. And then I'm gonna act like there's, it's kind of going out of the picture. Same right here. There would be like another wood post somewhere over here. Just like that. And you might need to do 2 coats on this too. Mine's pretty see-through. If your paintbrush has a lot of water on it, it'll make it a lot more see-through. So I have my white again with my little brush. I'm gonna get a little white on the tip of it, like that. And we're gonna add just some snow. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just kind of like to dab it, little tapping motions on let me grab my white, on the top of each post, kind of like it's building up on the wood. Doesn't have to be the same on all of them. You don't have to put it on all of them, but I kind of like it on all of them. And then I do like to add a little bit built up on the wood. Just like little tiny tap swooshes. Oops, guess I'll put some right there. You could do some just on 1 or 2. Kind of like that. So now they're kind of covered in snow as well. All right. So now we are gonna do, you're gonna need your little, this is how I make dots. I use like an old mechanical pencil, or you could use the back of a paintbrush too. Yeah, and then we're gonna do all the snowflakes. Totally forgot to do this step at the beginning when we were doing our background, because I like to work my way up and I forgot. So before we start with our very dark white dots, I'm actually gonna get a little bit of water on my page right here and kind of get some of the white with it, and I'm gonna just kind of tap randomly different sizes and kind of use my finger to fade them out so it kind of looks like there's some snowflakes behind the trees, you know, kind of like in the distance in the sky. You want to make sure, even when you're doing any type of snow, even stars, you always want to not have a pattern. You want to do like little clusters of them. Man, that was a tongue twister. You want to do like little clusters together, like 3 or 4 together. Some of them really spaced out, some of them really big, just to help really have that look not so thought out in a way. Okay, that just kind of adds some more depth to the sky, in my opinion. You don't have to do it, but I just like the way it looks. You can get like one with a lot of water and kind of sit there and make it a little bigger and just kind of tap it. So now for just the regular snowflakes, I'm just gonna get white with no water, and you just kind of start placing them wherever you think. They don't have to just be in the sky. These ones could kind of be in the trees as well, because since this is like a scene, you know, like let's say you're looking at this like in real life, there's probably snow falling in front of your face, so it would cover the trees. Just kind of add it wherever. You could have some kind of over here on the blanket, because it would only make sense that there'd be snow falling in front of here, in front of the fence. You could do them as tiny. I've seen some where they cover paintings with like really tiny white dots, or I guess like washed out, since this is more cartoon, but it always looks so cute. You could even put like a little buildup of snow on the blanket. I don't know why I didn't think of that till just now. That would be cute. All right, something like that. You could do as much as you want. Now we're gonna add the little snowflakes. I feel like that just adds some more fun elements. So I'm using another really tiny brush, and I'm actually gonna have a little bit of water on it, not a lot, just so these can glide easier. These to me are kind of hard because I don't have a soft hand, and you don't really want to press too hard if you want them, you know, really thin. So I'm gonna do a large one right here. So I'm gonna do the first initial line, and the second one like going across, the one that would make like a plus sign, really long, like obnoxiously long, like that. And then the ones going diagonal through it, like half the height of it. I just love the way that looks. Almost like it's like kind of like flashing. Definitely this one would be the longest. Then you can kind of just add these wherever you think. They do show up way better on the darker colors. It's okay if it goes into other things. It kind of makes it look a little bit better. You could even do like a little one right here. Do some in the trees. Those ones are kind of harder to see. Okay, I added mine to those spots. And then I am going to have my husband drill me a hole, and we'll put the little ribbon through, and that will be it. Also, if you want to add like a top coat, wood on acrylic, to me, it doesn't really need it, because these, you're not really touching these. If you were painting acrylic on like acrylic material or something super glossy and smooth, it would easily scratch off. I mean, if you sat here, you could probably pick this off. But sometimes I add like this satin varnish for acrylic. You could do the acrylic sprays, but if you don't, they have glossy in that. They have matte. I think glossy looks good, or the satin. You could even, if you wanted to put more white dots on this, and then like put like white sparkles, and then once this is all dry, but just do the, you know, kind of like how you would do sparkles or glitter with glues. That would be really fun. But okay, so here is my satin ribbon. It's kind of hard to get through there, but I love the chunky ribbon through these. I like it better than my bead and string I think this just looks so cute. And then you're gonna get paint all over your nose. And then I'm just gonna tie that like this. Probably a lot better, but you know, I don't know how large the branches would be. You could even tape that behind like the little and have it like this, or I don't know, I like the tie at the top. I just cut those off. But I hope that was easy, and if you want to do this little gingerbread library or even the mushroom with the book, I also have a red version. I think that's the video I did. I have those up on my page as well. And yeah, thanks for hanging out.